Oh, I should put that over on the YouTube live stream too. So there you go. You can pick that up if you want. That's all that's really kind of happening right now. I do want to mention one thing. This is very important to me, and it's kind of a shout out to a viewer, Dan McDougall, buddy of mine, all around good guy. I thank you for being a good friend, Dan. You are objectively wrong about Big Trouble in Little China. Big Trouble in Little China is one of the best movies ever made. And I would not spread that wrong opinion around on the internet if I were you. I would just keep that to myself. You can either love Big Trouble in Little China or you can continue to be wrong. So, which brings me to an interesting point. Someone asked on Ishiro's live stream last night. Dan knows I'm yanking his chain, by the way. Like, what is the best movie to watch if you're going to write an RPG or an adventure? And it just like, it's all over the place. What are you going to write? Are you going to write post-apocalypse? There's 1,000 PA books and movies, Mad Max, on the PA novel list, you've got Alas Babylon by Pat Frank. It goes on and on and on and on. Science fiction, Star Wars, Star Trek, thousands of science fiction novels. And I mean, I can't say go watch this or go do that to a particular a particular film or genre or whatever. However, the correct overall answer is Big Trouble in Little China. If you want to write a Western RPG, watch Big Trouble in Little China for ideas. If you want to write a gangster RPG, watch Big Trouble in Little China. If you want to write a fantasy RPG or adventure, watch Big Trouble in Little China. Science fiction, Big Trouble in Little China. Obviously, Kung Fu, I think that goes without saying, an Asian-themed RPG or an Asian-themed adventure. Big Trouble in Little China. Big Trouble in Little China is the universal solvent for what media should I consume as inspiration. So, I can't believe I forgot that. But there we go. All right. So let's get to painting. And the first mini I'm going to work on is this swordsman with lamp. And I'm going to bring up my preview mode. Now I will be, when I'm looking at the screen, it will be preview mode to make sure things are in focus. See, this guy didn't get any paint on him last time. And that cap is there for a reason. That cap lets me know that I am in the middle of the shot. That's my mark. I don't want to miss my mark. So, and if I could just say something here, this is like the worst posture to be in. If you're gonna paint, don't do what I'm doing. And I know you can't quite see what I'm doing, but one thing I do want to show is this is my wet palette that I had set up, and I'm not sure how well it's coming in. There we go. Those paints are a week old, and they're still good to go. Oh, I'm sorry, Simile. Listen, I said on his stream last night, and I mean it, if you have questions that got missed or you missed the live stream, I do these live streams every day. Every day I do a live stream. I tend to focus more on D&D when I'm talking here, but I'll do my best to answer your questions. And you know what? I need to step over and I need to get some paper towels and some water. I was so worried about solving technical problems today that I forgot to get my paint station set up as well as I might. So hang on a second, guys. Boom mic in my way. I love my boom mic, but I honestly it gets in my way a lot. So does the camera boom. Although this one is better. I wish you know what? Here. I have this absolutely amazing camera boom arm. That is fantastic, and I've got my DSLR hanging on it. All right, so let's get started painting. Now, as always, you want thinned paints. I'm just going to start out and get my brush nice and wet. You want thinned paints. And a wet palette is a great way to not have to thin your paints much because the paint is going to, through capillary action, be moistened. All right, so we're going to come in and we're going to do this guy's eyes first. So we're going to mix up some of our linen white, not Lennon white. We will redistribute the white to all of the peasants and seize the means of painting production. Commies. Can't stand them. All right. And I will show this. It looks like his eyes. I may have gotten his eyes already, but can't hurt to put just a second thin layer on. All right, so there we go. You can't really see it because he's primed white. I know. But I have got his eyes done. We're going to come back to his skin. But today, with these men-at-arms, with these hirelings, expert hirelings from the Grenadier box set, we're going to be coming through and doing a second thin layer of tanned shadow from Reaper. That's this guy right here. And most of these paint colors, this is 9043. Is that? There we go, 9043. Most of these paint colors are available from Reaper. I may show some colors on here as I do these paint labs that you can't get anywhere else, and I apologize for that. But I will try and provide substitutes. Are you asking what my favorite Lovecraft story is, similarly? Because I would say it's a tie, where I would say either Shadow over Innsmouth or Within the Walls of Erks, which is a great science fiction story that HPL wrote. A criminally overlooked sci-fi story that HPL wrote. All right, so let's see. So let's come in and we'll start with the Chiseler. The Chiseler is loose in the theater. Beware of the Chiseler. So for those of you who haven't followed me on painting streams, the reason we do 2 thin coats instead of just 1 thick coat is we don't want to obscure and put thick gobs of paint over details. We want to come in and we want it to be thinned. I'm just kind of coming in here and I'm redoing previous paint. So yeah, it's a little tedious. It's a little, you know, oh, I gotta go do it all over again. But it really does get you better results than if you just come in and are like, yeah, I'm just gonna take it right out of the bottle and just glop it on. Now, I have done that with some things that require that degree of glop, but it's rare. Rarely anymore do I come straight out of the bottle onto an item. So I'm just kind of getting this guy in there. I can't lean under the camera and show you guys while I'm painting. It's this is an exceptionally uncomfortable posture and position I'm sitting in here. And yet it's better than me headbutting my my webcam constantly. By far. So, but anyway, to go back to what I was saying, anytime you miss a live stream that I do with someone else, now I can't speak to them about, you know, do they keep the streams up or anything like that. Ishiro does. All of his stuff is good and archived. But if you had something you had to ask actually in the comments of the video on Facebook or on YouTube. And I will come back and I will answer it. I get those notifications. I have 600 viewers. So I will, you know, I'm not like Linus Tech Trips. So if you don't follow IT stuff, there we go. If you don't follow IT stuff, Linus, it's not Linus Torvalds. It's, there's a Canadian dude named Linus, and he has done an absolutely amazing job at building a channel and content. Like, he has such a dedicated viewer base. If he woke up tomorrow and was 600 viewers down, he would literally not notice it. Maybe one of the dozen or more people that works for him to just keep an eye on his analytics would notice, but he himself wouldn't even see it. If I lost 600 viewers tomorrow, I would curl up in a ball and cry. I would wonder what I had done. Because I have 600 viewers. But by that same token, you're never going to get a response from Linus in the video comments. The guy's got like 1.2 million subs or something crazy like that. Now, if he does, if he does a live stream and turns on super chats and you want to pay for the privilege of talking to him, here's our potion sampler. And this guy, per Jeremy rules request, will have closed eyes, not open eyes. But if you want to, if you want to pay for the privilege of having your voice heard, they'll accept that. And I won't lie, it's a good gig. But a guy like that, no. Which is why I berate him. I launch into terrible tirades at him in his comment sections, because while he definitely surrounds himself with staff that know their stuff, I have seen him like take an angle grinder to a computer case with the motherboard and RAM and CPU and other components still in it. You can grind on a case. This is the next guy to get his next coat. You can grind on a case. It's perfectly okay. If you need to adjust something, if you need to make room for a new fan or remove a legacy bay or something like that, but you need to take your farging components out. You have to. Microscopic granules of metal flying around inside a computer case mean pretty much that soon you're not going to have functional hardware. And I've seen him destroy multi-$1,000 pieces of computer hardware goofing and being silly on his channel with it, which he can afford to do. But again, because Linus has 2 million subs, 1.2 million or 2 million, or I don't know how many ever subs he's got, I can go in the comments and just be like, "You dumb son of a bitch. It just must get your rocks off destroying computer hardware that costs more than my house," and so on and etc. Because I know he'll never see it, or if he sees it, he's not going to bother to respond to it. Me, on the other hand, if I do something dumb, if I bring my OD&D set over and say, today we're going to color my original D&D set, then if you think that's the dumbest idea you've ever heard and you say so, I'll see it and maybe I'll rethink or I'll respond to it or say, haha, April Fools, I'm not really going to do that. It's just a prank, bro! So there we have our second coat on this guy. Bring it down a little. There is an optimal focal distance that I'm trying to show. And let's go to our treasure haulers. You know, these guys. Now I want to show, hopefully this will show up on camera really well. If you look at his hand there, and it's not showing up. Let me see if I put it in my hand. Ironically, his flesh tones may show up better against my flesh tones. But you can see the back of his knuckles there. There's a little bit of primer showing through on that spot because the paint is thinner at that point because it's a tension point. Paint flows away from it. And that's why we come back in with our second coat. Because now that we have paint of the same color to hold the paint that's going on, and you can come back in, you can do a third coat, a third thin coat even. God, this guy in the rear weirds me out because it looks like he has no nose. You know, it may have gotten nicked off when they took it out of the mold at Grenadier. It could have gotten bashed off rolling around in the box that I found these guys in. It just, there's no telling. But look at that. Let me see if I can turn this around. The guy in the back there. See? It looks like he has no nose. It's weird. So we'll just keep on keeping on with these two guys. But yeah, especially when you've got parts that have got sharp corners and curves, the two thin coats is so helpful there because those corners and curves are tension points that paint will flow away from. And if you've primed, regardless of what color you've primed in, and you should prime. Let me just tell you straight up. You absolutely should prime your minis. Some minis come pre-primed, and that's okay. But if you're just buying a bare metal mini, you prime it before you paint it. Your primer will always be a negative color, whether it's black or white or even gray. It's not going to be the same color that's going on for flesh tones, obviously. Or for much of your paint. Now, if you're painting white over white primer, that's fine. But you still, a white primer, if you can look on this, you know, that's not nicely flowing white paint. That's chalky looking white primer. So even if these guys were going to be white, you know, white, like that color white, you know, I'd want to make sure that they were completely covered and the primer wasn't showing through. So in the case of any angles or anything like that, I'm definitely making sure that my paint is flowing over. Now, I still have this guy to do to dot his eyes black. And I have this halfling. Like I said, this halfling we'll get in today. We're going to use some rosy colors, some rosy skin tones on this halfling. So those guys are still to do. Let's continue on. We have the medic and the fallen adventurer here. Missed my mark. Sorry about that. So come in and do this. But yes, I will always answer your questions to the best of my ability. So if you miss, if like I say, oh, I'm going to go on this guy's live stream and I'm going to tell you how to perform brain surgery on yourself and extend your life by 500 years, don't think, well, crap, I missed this guy's live stream. Bill's never going to mention that again. I'm doomed. No, just ask me later. Catch me outside. How about that? All about low points in Western culture. Klaatu in The Day the Earth Stood Still was right. We do need to be contained. I mean the original. I never saw that thing with that thing with Keanu Reeves. I mean, he's a fine actor and everything, but the less said, the better. I asked my dad if he wanted to see it, and his response was, "Some things don't need to be remade, son." My old man was right. He was right. My dad was right about a lot of things. Generally speaking, our fathers are right. And I had this discussion with Kyle, my co-host, and we didn't do a live stream last night, and I apologize for that. Oh, sorry. He is done now. Well, his Flesh Tones base coat is done now. If you're Gen X, you were raised by probably the last generation of parents who have ties to people that lived in truly difficult times. If you're Gen X, you're in your late 40s, early 50s, and the first person who says, "Okay, boomer," in the live stream or on Facebook gets kicked and banned. You were brought up by people whose parents probably, with rare exception, never knew plenty of the levels that we did. That generation, the generation that fought World War II, and even World War I, Korean War, that generation was raised by people who had ties to times of no cars, no electricity, no running water, nothing like that. And they were of a different metal than you or I or our parents. And they had a lot of wisdom, and I that generation is going away. If you're in your late 30s, early 40s, even early 50s, and your parents are still around, talk to them a lot. They're very wise. Their life experiences are worth their weight in gold. More treasure there than you can find on a used bookstore shelf. All right. So let us move on. Next guy. And then once we're done with this, we're going to go back and we're going to start base painting the halfling. Although I may come in. No, I think what I'm going to do is, because I've got a lot of this tanned shadow to start, I'm going to start painting this Warduke mini that I 3D painted up. If you guys can see that. That's a lot more visible. So I'm going to use up some of this tanned shadow. Let's see. I know you mentioned you don't really play retro clones, but have you tried ASS and H, or AS and SH? I have lots of friends who have. I haven't played it myself. It's on my I should give that a look list one day. Okay, this is another example of what I'm talking about when I talk about... get that. Look at the back of his hands. How the coverage of that first thin coat is showing primer through. So we're going to go and fix that. Anyway, Paul. Paul over on YouTube asked if I've played Astonishing Sorcerers and Swordsmen of Hyperborea. No, I have not. Generally speaking, when it comes to fantasy, I have enough in AD&D and original D&D to keep me completely satisfied. But if someone tells me, oh man, there's this feature that this game has and you've got to try it out, and it's compatible with them, with the games that I like, I'll steal it. I'll grab them and I'll steal it. But yeah, just from the outside looking in, Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers looks to be pretty okay. I have nothing against it specifically, or even generally. All right, so there we go. There's the guy. Now, I'm going to come in and I'm going to start painting Warduke here. And I'm going to use the remainder, because he's just letting it all hang out of Warduke is. I'm going to use a lot of the remainder of this tanned shadow to come in and base coat Warduke. And unlike everything else, Warduke does not have a face. He's just got 2 spots to put red dots on his face. There's no value in there. It's just a black void is how it's supposed to appear. Oops, got a little paint up there. I just said I wasn't going to do that. So yay, I don't have to paint eyes or face details. I can just come in and do 2 red dots. There's a lot of strange men in cell block 10, but the strangest of them all was a friend of mine who spent his time staring at the wall. Staring at the wall. In his hands was a note. The gal he wrote, and it proves that crime don't pay, was the same very gal he robbed and stole for, naming her wedding day. Naming her wedding day. The one thing about painting FDM miniatures is your paint can afford to be a little bit thicker because you're fighting the striations of the plastic layers. Which basically a printer lays down layers of plastic to produce the 3D object. And in the case of Warduke, I printed him standing upright, so the layers are horizontal, and the paint's going to want to fill those in first and leave a lot of high ridges without paint on them. And I'll show you that in just a second. I'll show you what I mean. There's never been a man ever shook this can. I could hear him softly curse. Nobody at all's ever crossed that wall, but I'm gonna be the first. I'm gonna be the first. Well, the warden came by and said, "Son, don't try. I'd hate to see you fall, 'cause there ain't no doubt they'll carry you out if you ever climb that wall. If you ever climb that wall." Well, a year's gone by since he made his try, but I can still recall how hard he died and the way he tried, but he never made that wall. No, he never made that wall. There's never been a man ever shook this can, but I know a man who tried. The newspapers called it jailbreak plan, but I know it was suicide. I know it was suicide. Uh-oh, I said suicide on my live stream. I'm going to get zucked. I'm going to get demonetized. I'm going to get deleted. Yeah, so that's just kind of the beginnings of the layers for Warduke. I'm going to have to consult a guide to see exactly where he's got skin showing to. I know, like, over here is male, but he's still got some skin showing. But I just wanted to kind of use up some of this tan shadow to start a layer on him. That was The Wall by Johnny Cash, by the way. A very bad interpretation of The Wall by Johnny Cash. So we'll set him over there for now. But Warduke's actually for a friend of mine. I'm going to let the flesh tone there rest for just a minute. I'm going to check on Facebook, see if I have any chats over there. No chats over there. And I do want to, I want to thank everybody from the bottom of my heart who has subscribed recently. We're now up to 607 subscribers on YouTube. So put the word out there. I want to get up to 1,000. And I am kind of expanding my idea of doing something special for 1,000 viewers. One thing I considered was maybe doing a face conceal where I will hide my face at 1,000 views and you'll never have to look at me again. But no, all kidding aside, I may do more than just a single dungeon bash. Maybe I'll do a games day. Maybe I'll run a lot of games for people on 1,000 views. What do you guys think? Tell me what you think in the Facebook chat or in the YouTube chat. Do you want a game day? Oh, hi, Aloise, Aloise. Is it Aloise? Hello, yes, a face to a voice. This is what I look like. Like I said, I'll do a face conceal when I hit 1,000 viewers. But no, if you guys would like a games day, I'll run a bunch of games and you can sign in and play them like a microcon maybe when I hit 1,000 viewers. Let me know if you'd like something like that rather than just some crazy hot seat sort of thing. Yeah, I know you. I figured Simile would be like, games day. Do a games day. But that's all cool. It's all cool. All right. So let's see. I got my next paint palette set up there. And I'm going to bring in our lantern bearer. And I'm going to dot his eyes. I'll dot your eye. I'm going to do it with this nice fine detail brush here. Is that the one I want? Yeah. And the reason I'm doing it there, and I'm also not thinning this is a case where I'm not thinning, is I want a black dot. I don't want this paint to flow. I want a black dot right on this guy's eye. And I messed it up a little, but again, that's fixable. Yep. So I got a little too much black there. I'm not sure how well that's showing, if at all. But I can fix that with some flesh tones and some white. I have black on his eyes now. Now our halfling, similarly, have already done... Okay, I already did his eyes. That's right, because I painted a pupil, like, offset there. That was not good. Not sure if that's focusing in. Nope. Yeah, there you can see it real well. So we'll come back to him though. We'll get you someday, little dude. Don't worry. I'm going to wipe that black off my thumb. Black from thumb, won't you come? I shouldn't make fun. I love Soundgarden. Like their whole body of work too. I'm not. Yeah, I like Soundgarden. I like Black Hole Sun and Spoon Man. No, I consider myself a Soundgarden fan. I like them a lot. All right, let's get in there and let's start painting this guy up. Okay. And same thing, he's going to get, he's going to get it. 2 thin coats. 2 thin coats. Not 1 thick coat. Now there's a lot of painters, they'll layer up, man. They'll say, 2 thin coats is a minimum. 5 should be what you aim for. But, I'm at the 3 foot is good. The 3 foot rule. If it looks good from 3 feet away on the table, then yeah, it's a good mini. It's a good paint job. If it looks good at arm's length, if you can hold it out here like that, and it looks good to everybody on the table, then you've got an okay mini. And this guy in the halfling, I'm going to have some fun with, because when we get to the point, I'm going to show you guys doing a fire glow painting via airbrushing, which is so amazingly easy to do. Like, it's such a cool hack if you want like spell glowy stuff. I mean, you don't have to have just like fire glow where it's like, oh, okay, yeah, there's a torch. You can do it with, bluish greenish energy blast or something like that. But any kind of spectral highlighting like that, any kind of glowy highlights, you can come in and you can do with just a little bit of dry brushing, or even airbrushing if you're a droid enough to do airbrushing on that level. So what I'm going to do to fix this guy's eyes is I'll come in and I'll put dots of white in the corners. Oops. I'll put dots of white in the corners of his eyes to kind of minimize the pupil size, because right now it looks like he's possessed. Like he's just got, like, the devil has just rushed into him and has turned his eyes black like something from a 90s spooky TV show. That was always the effect. Come in. The primer is really thin on the back of this guy's hand and arm, so it's like it's going to take a lot of coats. It's my Jeff Goldblum impression. So I was talking about that on my Facebook feed the other day. I was saying, everybody says, oh yeah, man, when the A10 fires its gun, it's burnt. I tend to think that the A10 is just doing a Jeff Goldblum impression. Okay. It is more of a Bert, but I thought that was funny. Because, you don't normally think of the A10 Warthog, the premier close support aircraft in existence today, as being something that you would associate with Jeff Goldblum, who is a nice and certifiably nuts person. I had this GIF or this series of images, I can't remember, but it was really fun, and I think he takes the piss a lot, where he was saying, You know, a lot of people ask me, is it Goldblum or Goldblum? And when those people come up and they ask me that question, I say to them, how dare you speak to me? So, that's good fun. That's good fun. How, good Lord. Is it only 114? It feels like it took a lot longer last time to get these guys going. And I think it was probably because I was setting up paint colors and whatnot also. But let's go ahead and start doing the skin tones for the halfling. And oh yes, it was because I had to. It's because I had to shake up paint colors. I'm just gonna shake up the rosy shadow. I would really love to have a vortex mixer. I have seen, so they're laboratory things, and I'm not being crass, but they look all the world for all the world like a mechanical breast that sits on your desk, and it vibrates. I mean, could you make that more sexual? But anyway, it's this dome shaped thing, and it's got a rubber nipple on top. I told you guys. But you take, it's nominally for test tubes, and you take a test tube or a paint bottle and set it on it and switch it on and hold it there for a couple of minutes, and it vibrates at such a high rate of frequency that it will completely mix a semi-liquid and a liquid together. And I've seen some guys who have created something out of nothing. They've taken paints like that have been separated for 20 years. Like you remember your Pactra or your Testors paints. You'd see them as a kid, and there'd be that layer of varnish, and then underneath that, this almost solid sediment of pigment. You know, this gluey mess, and you could spend like an hour stirring it with a toothpick to try and get some semblance of usable paint. A guy had showed a before and after, where he took a 20-year separated bottle of acrylic and did that. Just held it on there for a few sessions of a couple of minutes each. It completely factory thin, flowed normally and usable. And I would love to have something like that so I can stop doing this constantly. Because if I'm doing this, we know what that looks like. Yeah, I'm getting in your heads. I'm making it psychological. I'm sorry, that's crass. But yeah, I gotta shake these for a minute. So I will take that time to answer and ask from Simile. Worst moments as a GM. Worst moments as a GM. I would say there have been a few where, you know, the game's going and you get that one person at your table. I don't want to name names because I don't want to make it sound like I'm bashing friends of mine, but you know, when you just make a ruling as a game master, like, you know, you do something that isn't necessarily to the benefit of a player's character 90% of the time. And yes, 90, not 99, not 98, 90. That means 9 times out of 10, which means 1 time in 10 somebody's going to take it personally. But 90% of the time they go, okay. I have had those 1 in 10 times when I've made rulings and people have immediately jumped to, why are you screwing me? And it just becomes this awkward, like everybody else at the table just wants to play, and everybody at the table is sitting there just kind of, and this person is getting in my face. That's happened. The eye contact adds to the nightmare fuel. Yeah. God. I'm going straight to hell. So I would say those moments when people just can't take your game master ruling are the worst moments as a game master. Let's see. Best moments as a game master. Aaron asks my best moments as a game master. My best moment, singularly, my best moment as a game master on record. And there are things that are tied for it, but I would have to say the most recent, I ran a portion of my Castle Greyhawk mega dungeon. It's not Gary's, it's mine. I'm just calling it Castle Greyhawk because it's cool. On the bottommost level, there's a sunless sea. Like if you've seen the original Journey to the Center of the Earth, when they come to this great undersea ocean. But the adventure was called Journey to a Sunless Sea, and the party fought their way through a canyon full of grimlocks and mind flayers and so on, and they came to the edge of the Sunless Sea, and they found a boat, they found a ship, and they journeyed out onto the ocean. And it's not such a I'm going to pat myself on the back for being so clever, which is why it's good moment. It was their reaction which made me so happy, because they got on the boat, they sailed out into the middle of the sea, and this is something that I planned for decades, for 20 years in designing my own mega dungeon, whether I call it Castle Delve or Castle Sylvie or Castle Greyhawk. Because there is a miniature hurricane on the Sunless Sea, and they got sucked into it. And in the middle of the hurricane, there is this long boat that is crewed by the KLF. And the KLF are an art project pop band. Like, you might only know them from the song Doctor in the TARDIS or 3 a.m. Eternal, but they are righteously smart. And I know someone who is actually in the video for America, What Time Is Love, which I took inspiration for that whole scene from. The band on this long boat in a storm-tossed ocean. So as it happens, two of the players in that game absolutely adore the KLF. And they knew the minute I started to describe it, because they had no idea that there was someone out there that had kind of that deep lore knowledge. I'm wetting my wet palette a little bit more, by the way, of the KLF. And so here, they meet the band and they're like, oh my God, this is so cool. And just listening to their reactions that someone dropped that on them in a Dungeons and Dragons game made me so happy. Like, I thought it was a cool thing. They thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread, and that just made me ecstatic that they liked it so much. That was one of my best moments most recently. Tied for that is when I did the final reveal of the menagerie from White Plume Mountain. Now, if you don't know White Plume Mountain, if you don't know your way around that module, there is a room that is an inverted ziggurat, an inverted step pyramid that goes downward and into the middle, and each step is 10 feet wide. And it's like, the topmost layer is 180 feet long, and each section gets smaller. And in each section are different kinds of monsters separated by these glass walls. And so I built that out of polystyrene and polystyrene board and plexiglass. And then bought the miniatures for each level of monsters and populated it. And the oohs and ahs when I revealed that to the players. And it wasn't just something I was discussing with him. Oh, I wrecked one of his eyes, damn it. But it wasn't just an abstract thing that I showed them a picture of on the map. Made the weeks of work on doing the thing all worth it. So those are two of my best moments as a GM. So I've completely jacked up his eyes. I may not worry about the left one. The right one I might have to come back in and fix again. We'll see. And if it doesn't work out, I'll fix it like between sessions of showing you guys, just because it's kind of tedious. And like I said, I'm sitting at a really awkward angle here. The next painting session we do, I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna start doing the highlight layers on the flesh tones on these guys. But this is, oh, I should have showed this this paint before I started doing this, but I'll come back to it. And as you can see, he's got the torch. So I'm going to be doing a lot of fire glow highlights on him. Yeah, this rosy shadow is a nice color. It's barely a shadow at all, but it is darker than the other colors in the triad. Yeah, his eyes aren't too bad. I didn't screw him up too bad. So we'll set him aside, and I'll show you guys the rosy shadow. So here it is. This is 9067, as my camera struggles to focus. Reaper Rosy Shadow, which I think is still in their catalog. So I'll put that aside. I'm gonna let those guys dry. I'm gonna sit back for a few minutes. I'm gonna let those guys let that paint dry thoroughly. That's one thing that's a lesson though that I gotta tell you guys about, is you cannot, I know if you're painting, the desire is really strong to come through and you just want to paint the heck out of everything and do it quickly. You have to be patient, even if it's your first mini. One thing you can do is you can get a small desk fan and put your mini behind, or in front of that desk fan, and put it on like a medium blow to dry the paint on the minis faster. So I know the desire to paint quickly. I have enough minis that, you know, I can pick up something else and start painting on it in lieu of working on the mini that I just started. But you know, if you're just starting and you really like, I want to dry this and I want to jump back in it, use you can use a fan to more quickly dry your mini. And interestingly, Aaron asked me, I've never painted minis, can you use a hate gun? A hate gun? I want a hate gun, man. Get me a hate gun. No, hate gun's better. Make it hate gun. I would not use a heat gun. And if you're going to use a hairdryer, I would make sure it's on cool. I would put it on a cool setting. I would not use a heat gun at all on a miniature. Metal, and especially not plastic. Like if I turned a heat gun on this FDM printer, or on this FDM printed Warduke that I painted here, it would just melt into nothing almost immediately. So no, I would not use a heat gun to dry a mini. I would use a hair dryer, but set on low. But really, hang on, I'm gonna go over there and I'm gonna get my fan and show you guys what I use. Which actually, I'm kind of sweltering. I can't believe I forgot and left it sitting over there. It's even on. What a nitwit I am. Hold on. All right. So this is what I used. This was like $5 or $6 on eBay. This is just a little desk fan. Sometimes I'll have it over here, like on a hot day. I'll have it pointing at me to keep me from bursting into flames. But yeah, you can stand a gaggle of minis underneath this and just tilt it down. And it's got multiple speeds. I'm going to have this pointing at me because we're coming up on an hour and I'm probably not going to be doing any more painting today. But I am going to put the lid back on my wet palette. But yeah, just get a little fan like this. If you have an army that you're painting that you need done lickety split, use like a larger oscillating fan. Some people have said they'll put metal minis in the oven on the lowest possible setting they can for like 10 minutes and like dry and cure the painting. I'm not going to do that because a lot of my metal minis, like these Grenadier minis that I'm painting over here, have a significant lead content. I'm not going to heat up lead in my oven, even if it's got layers of paint on it. And I just don't need them painted that quickly. So don't do that. Don't put them in your oven. Don't get a toaster oven just for drying mini paint quickly. Just use use a little fan if you need them done quickly, but in the overall, just let them air dry. Buy more than one mini when you start. Like I think Nolzur's, the WizKids minis they do for Dungeons and Dragons, they sell like a 3-pack of Human Fighters that's like $4.99. They're plastic, but get those and just go through them in a circular motion. Start one, set them aside to dry under the fan or by air, go to the second one. But when you're assembly line painting like I am with these hirelings versus doing a single character, for a lot of different reasons, it just makes good horse sense to go through and just do all the shades of one type, like I'm doing with the flesh tones here, and then let them dry the first layer, then come back and do it for the second layer, and then do your highlights, and then move on to a different section. Now these guys are not an army. I know I've said army painting, but this is more bulk painting. I want these guys to be a motley, greens and browns for the halfling, maybe reds and yellows for some of the humans, or browns and blacks for others of the humans. So once I really get in deep on these guys, I'm going to be throwing a whole lot of different colors, and it's going to be more like painting a bunch of individuals rather than an army. But for the time being, for now, like the next step, once their skin dries, will be to come through and hit them with this. This is the flesh wash that Reaper does. I think they still do this, 9253. You know what? Let's take a look. A good flesh wash is a very, very nice thing to have. Do they still make flesh wash? Yes, they do. 92.53, and it's $3.96 a bottle. They actually make a wash triad. They make a flesh wash, a brown wash, and a black wash. I have plenty of brownish and blackish washes. I'm not a paint bigot. The only paints that I won't buy are Games Workshop paints, because Games Workshop paints are a waste of money. And I've said this time and time and time again. Games Workshop paints, the only thing they're designed to cover is your bank account. But I don't recommend Games Workshop paints. Sorry, I just don't. I hope that doesn't offend anyone who's a GW fanboy. All right, guys. I had a lot of fun painting today and chit-chatting. Tomorrow, Don McVitie will be here. Don, like I said, old friend of mine. He's the CMFIC at Hellebarde Games, who, full disclosure, had published something of mine, which I've linked to, Temple of the Sun. You can go buy a copy there. Do check out my other stuff too. The Lost Crypt, the module that I worked on for Gary Gygax, or part of the adventure that I worked on for Gary Gygax, and of course Elemental Moon, which is also at Frog God Games. You can pick all of those up for not too much money, and you'll get some absolutely fantastic dungeon adventures, particularly if you're heavy into the Gygax stuff. You're really, really going to like Lost Crypt, because I worked on that with Gary. So that about does it for today. Thank you, everyone, for stopping by, for listening to the stream. I really appreciate it. I always appreciate y'all's input. And I just want to say that having made it to 600 some viewers, let me see here. I'm striving to get to 1,000 viewers. I'm not going to lie. I'm telling the truth. Let me see. My channel. Yeah, 607 subscribers. It has just gone right up from the doldrums of the low 400s that it was a couple of weeks ago. It's great. Like I said, it would be spiffy if I got to 1,000. So tell all your friends, ask around, and say, hey, this guy's got a pretty good channel about gaming and geek-related stuff. So go check him out. But as to you guys, again, I love you all. Thank you very much for stopping by today. I will see you on the flip side. Peace.